Good evening, everyone. It's Tanja from Tanja Kraus Horsemanship, and you are joining me for Wednesday Night Live. I'm coming to you with tonight's Wednesday night topic, which no one knows what it is because I have just walked in the door. We're on day 3 of a 14-day cult start, and so I've just walked in the door and decided on the topic and gone ahead and started filming. So one of the things I guess that comes to mind when you're doing a cult start is, or taking people through starting their own young horses. That's what the clinic's all about. I think one of the things that comes to mind or becomes evident during that is all the preparation that we do to get our horses as ready as possible to be ridden. And what we have is at this colt start, we've got one restart. We've got one horse that was sort of partially started and had a lot of time off and hadn't been sort of trotted or cantered under saddle, and 2 horses that have never been ridden before, one of which I'm doing the start on, and another lady is doing her own horse. And one of the things that keeps coming up over the last few days is, of course, all the preparation that we're doing with these horses to make sure that they are as confident as possible with the saddling, with the groundwork, with the saddling, and ultimately with the riding, mounting and riding process. And it got me to thinking about horses that do things for no reason, or you hear someone, they've had an accident or they've had a incident with their horses and they say, oh, he did it for no reason. And he did it out of the blue. There was no warning signs. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of things in regards to that. One, that there always is a reason. We might not be able to tell what that reason is, but the horse certainly has a reason for doing whatever he did. And the other thing is that most of the time it isn't out, like I'm saying 99% of the time it's not out of the blue. Generally there's a lot of clues in the lead up to the incident that happened. And even if it's just a lack of preparedness on the horse's part or the owner's part or the owner's part of getting the horse prepared for whatever it is that they were expecting the horse to do. So the horse always has a reason. It's always whether the horse was in physical pain, whether the horse was under too much mental stress that he couldn't cope with and he reacted negatively, whether it was environmental stimulus, whether it is the horse is reacting to something that's occurred suddenly, or whether he's just reacting to something that he's interpreting in an incorrect way. Maybe it is simply a lawnmower or something like that, but he doesn't, he doesn't have the ability to reason in that way. So it doesn't really ever happen for no reasons. Horses don't just do things for no reason. There's always a reason. It just might be our lack of ability to think of the reason, or the reason might not make sense to us. We'll say, oh, he spooked, but it was only at a tree stump, or, it was only the guy next door hanging washing on the line, or whatever. And so the horse sort of does have a reason, but we discredit that reason, or we don't think it was a good enough reason. And really whether we think it was a good enough reason or not is not relevant, because the horse thought it was good enough reason. And it's not that the horse is sitting there saying, I'm worried about that. I wonder whether I should or shouldn't. Yeah, I think it's a good enough reason. I'm going to go ahead and spook. What the horse does is he gets stimulated by, like we just said, mentally, physically, environmentally, and he just reacts in whatever way that he feels is necessary for his own safety or well-being at that time. So sometimes it's our horses' inability to read our cues or understand our cues, or maybe we do something up there in the saddle that the horse doesn't understand. and we and the horse reacts negatively, or in our opinion the horse reacts negatively. That's the other side of this coin, is that we always say, oh, you know, he bucked, he bolted, he reared, he did something to me, and we consider that to be negative. And of course, from a rider perspective, it is a negative action. But if you see the horses behaving in the paddock and a whole group of birds fly up out of the bushes and the horse all canters down the paddock and they buck and carry on, most of the time we go, oh, look at that, you know, they're just carrying on. And so we understand that it's not a negative behavior in the horse's opinion. We just consider it a negative behavior because it's frightening to us, or it can unseat us, or it can hurt us, or whatever the case may be. We consider that that action was negative, but to the horse, he's just bucking or bolting or rearing or doing whatever he would normally do, irrespective of whether the person was there or not, unless the person is what is causing the stimulus. And in any case, the horse is still going to have a similar reaction. Most of us who are familiar with our own horses, and we've observed our own horses in the paddock and things like that, most of us could say, my horse likes to bite the other horses, run away, buck at the other horses, strike at the other horses, etc., etc. Of course, every single horse has all of those abilities, but most of our horses have a particular go-to that they go to. So, you know, some of my horses are runners, and if they're worried or spooked or whatever, they'll run. And some of my horses are confrontationalists, so they like to walk up to things and you know, do things with their front feet. And then other one of my horses might turn and kick out if they're negatively stimulated by another horse or dog or whatever the case may be. So what I wanted to talk about was it's our responsibility to understand that there is always a reason for the horse to be reacting the way that they're reacting. And there's definitely clues that those things are going to happen. Now, whether the clue is that my horse is continuously in a high alert, high adrenal state, that's a pretty simple, basic indicator that at some point along the line, my horse is probably going to react in a way that I don't want him to react. So my horse's general state of well-being, or my horse's general state that I observe. So for example, I've got Rip and I've got Millie in my backyard at the moment. So Millie is a horse that has been started but has been on a spell for 4 months, and she only probably had really less than 20 rides when she was started under saddle. And you've got Rip, who is an unstarted horse who has also been turned out. So both of these horses, when you walk into the paddock, I've just come in, I've just fed them. Both of them, when you walk into the paddock, they're eager to see you. And if any of you have been watching the Millie Diaries, you can see this for yourself. She walks up, she's curious, she's interested, and then, you know, your jacket will rustle and she'll go like that. And then, you know, maybe someone will drop something, or this morning there was cattle running in the paddock across the road and she goes like that. So if I've got a horse that I'm riding, and even with Millie, I'm not riding that horse, I know that that horse's general state right now, the way that she is every single day, when there's, you know, stuff happening, which is pretty much all the time, I know that there's a pretty high chance that that horse is going to react negatively in some way, as in my opinion of it is negative. Like I say, to her it's just normal. To her it's not negative. So we need to let go of the idea that the horse is misbehaving or they're doing something wrong, because the horse is just being a horse. So, but in my opinion, as a human, that horse is going to react negatively, and potentially that negative reaction is going to include me in some way. So what I mean by that is, if Millie gets startled and she jumps forward and I happen to be standing in front of her or too close to her, or I don't recognize that that's about to happen, there's every chance that that horse would bump into me. Now, Boogie or Squizzy or Galley or Cooper or any of my other horses that are, you know, respectful, been handled a lot, good citizen horses, would not bump into me, although they quite possibly could, because no horse is foolproof. But most of those horses are going to have a pretty reasonable amount of awareness about where I am and where they should and shouldn't go, and that they shouldn't bump into me. But because Millie is young and fresh and spooky and still learning the ropes and still being educated on the very basic things, there's every chance that Millie could bump into me. So one, it isn't for no reason. She would do it for, because she's spooked or because something else was worrying her, and she would run into me. And the clue that could potentially happen is her general state of being every single day, that I know if I even stand on the outside of the fence and just watch those horses, they can be grazing in the paddock and a tractor can start next door and both of them will throw their heads up and run. So I know that those horses are not currently environmentally quiet in their environment, and I know that they haven't been exposed to enough in their environment to be non-reactive. So I know that I'm dealing with a reactive horse, so I know that there's a clue there, that their general behavior that's telling me that something like that could happen. So I couldn't say to you, if something was to happen, she did it for no reason, because she would absolutely have a reason, and every horse that does anything, anytime, anywhere has got a reason for it. We just struggle to understand that reason sometimes. And number two, I couldn't say to you, she did it out of the blue, because I know every time I step into that paddock that she's getting more confident every day. And whilst a cat meowing might have made her spook on Monday, and a cat meowing might not have made her spook today, what I do know is that a dog barking might spook her today. And on Friday, if I know that a dog barking isn't going to frighten her, maybe a lid closing, a car door slamming may frighten her on Friday, and then on Monday, and so on and so forth. So you get where I'm coming from in regards to the clues that it is going to happen, potentially. So another thing that I need to talk about in regards to the clues, because sometimes we might have a horse that is not like that at all and is generally quiet and environmentally sound and been handled, like I said, Squizzy or Galley or any of my other horses, there's still a chance that something could go wrong with one of those horses. So the clues that I need to look out for in regards to whether something could possibly go wrong, whether it's on the ground or whether it's under saddle, is the body language of the horse, and it's the finer details of the body language of the horse that I need to start tuning into, that are potentially going to tell me that the horse is in a pre-flight mode or a flight mode, and therefore may react to external stimulus. I have to be aware that no matter where I'm riding, I cannot always control my environment. So even if I'm riding in my backyard and I'm in my arena, I can't always control that environment. My dog might run out and chase a bird, a chicken might flap its wings in the chicken coop, a truck might drive past on the road with a flapping tarp. Any of those number of things, even if I live in the quietest street on the quietest day, a bird could fly out of a tree and the branch could drop, and that could be a stimulus that one of my horses could react to. So because I can't always control my environment, what I need to be in tune with is my horse's body language that is telling me how my horse is relating to their environment, how my horse is relating to me, whether my horse is listening to me, whether my horse is kind of letting me take the reins and letting me make sure that the environment is safe and nothing's going to jump out and attack them or anything like that, or whether my horse is on the opposite, on the contrary, looking out and alert. Maybe they've got a higher respiratory rate, maybe their heart rate's increased, maybe little things are starting to bother them. I know that some days that Cooper might get the heebie-jeebies, and I'll be riding him around in the arena and he'll be like, oh, look, the dog ran, or oh, look, that's happening. And you think, well, that is a state of mind of that horse, but he's already starting to give me clues that he's reacting to stimulus that he normally wouldn't react to. So some of the things that we need to keep an eye out for are our horse's facial expressions. So, worry lines around the eyes, the shape of the nostrils, tightness in the mouth, gritting of the teeth. Maybe they're grinding their teeth. Maybe they've just got their jaw clamped shut. What is their respiratory rate? Are they breathing, nice, even breaths? Are they doing short, sharp breaths? Are they doing rapid breaths? Are they not breathing and then taking a big breath? What about the muscular tension in the horse? So how are their muscles? Are they tight? Are they, do they feel nice and soft when I run my hand down my horse's neck? Or do I feel rigid in my hand when I'm not even asking my horse to do anything? Does the horse feel tense in his body? Do his muscles feel tense? What about the way my horse is moving and traveling? Is he stiff? Is he, taking short strides? Is he free flowing and taking beautiful long strides? Sometimes we might think, oh, my horse is a bit stiff because he's been in the box overnight and, he just needs time to warm up. Or maybe he's an older horse and we think, oh, he just needs a bit of time to warm up, etc., etc. But then we also need to consider that my horse's mental state is going to be reflected in his movement. So if my horse is tense or he's worried about something, and maybe my horse is a bit of an secret stressor and I don't realize that he's worried about something, sometimes his movement is going to give me an indicator of whether he is bothered by something, because typically a horse that is worried is going to have perhaps a shorter movement, an unevenness to their movement. Maybe they're going to have a movement that's like the horse is walking through, heavy mud, or maybe they're kind of dragging their toes, or maybe they're tripping and stumbling. And any of these things can indicate to me that my horse is bothered or worried. So these are some of the things that we're talking about at the Colt Start, and we're learning to observe this kind of body language, because it's one thing for me to observe Cooper and put him out on the lunge and think, oh, he's a bit stiff. So I need to say, is he stiff because he's sore? Is he stiff because there's a physical issue? Is he stiff because he's in pain? Which all come under that physical umbrella. The other thing I need to think about is he stiff in his movement because he's not 100% in his mind? So is it a mental stiffness that's being reflected in the feet? When it comes to colt starting, and when it comes to thinking about getting on our horse for the first time ever in its whole life, what I need to start thinking about is that movement. Sure, it could be a physical issue. It could be, pain. It could be soreness. It could be tension in the body. But what I really need to consider is whether those body language indicators are telling me that the horse actually isn't as okay with the saddle as I think he is. He's now got a girth strapped to him that's restricting his movement and restricting his breathing until he learns how to carry it and work with it. Maybe it's scaring him a little because it's making a noise or it's flapping. Maybe it's scaring him simply because he feels like he can't get it off. Any of these things could be in there, and we were watching the horses today, and most of the comments today, we did a bit of saddling work, and most of the comments from the participants were, every single one of these horses, you could watch them go around and you could think, oh yeah, he looks okay, he looks fine, he looks like he's accepting the saddle. But then when you start to look at the facial expressions, the muscle tension, how he's carrying himself, how he's traveling. Something else we need to consider is how my horse is relating to his environment. Like I said before, is he spooking? Is he overreacting to his environment? Is he underreacting to his environment? If a kangaroo goes bounding past the paddock and he barely gives it a second glance, is he quiet or is he shut down? Is he quiet or is he just so internal that he didn't even notice the kangaroo bouncing past? You know, what about my horse's tail? The tail can be a great indicator of what's going on. And sometimes, sure, the horse might be swishing his tail and we think, oh yeah, he's a little bit grumpy, but it goes beyond that. How's he carrying his tail? Is it stiff? Is it soft? Is it flowing? Is it, you know, it's a reflection of what's happening in the body and the spine. So if my horse's tail is brace and tight and tense, is that what's going on in the horse's body, or is that what is going on in the horse's mind? If my horse's tail is swishing and tornadoing and doing all this stuff, it's telling me that the horse is tense. So is he tense in regards to his environment? Is he tense in regards to what I'm asking him to do? Sorry, a little bit tired, 3 days into the colt start. We're doing pretty big days. Or is he tense because he's not 100% comfortable with the saddle? So all of these are clues as to whether or not your horse is accepting of the saddle or the environment or what it is that you're doing. And it can be applied to all of our horses, whether they're young horses. And as I said at the colt start, you know, your observations in regards to a young horse, it sounds dramatic, but it is life and death for you. It is absolutely whether or not you are going to be able to predict that maybe that horse is going to have a bucking fit today and you're going to hit the deck with a young horse. Maybe with a horse like Cooper, I might be lucky enough to go, oh, he's probably not going to have a bucking fit, but he's tight today, he's tense today. Maybe there's something that's going to happen here, and I need to help him work through it. So considering the horse and understanding that there's clues and being tuned into the horse and reading what the horse is trying to tell us, often what happens is we miss the finer details, and it's only when the horse is bucking, bolting, rearing, you know, doing massively dramatic things with his body that we say, oh, there's something wrong, he's a little bit grumpy. But really the horse has been trying to tell us that for, you know, the last half an hour or the last week or the last month or the last year. So really starting to hone your skills in regards to those finer details of body language, it will take you a long way in starting to learn about how your horse is, you know, feeling mentally, physically, or spiritually. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, or what I wanted to leave us with, is the importance of preparing our horse. So during the colt start, obviously we're preparing our horse to get saddled and ridden, and we're learning about reading the body language to know whether the horse is ready to go to the next step. But again, this can be applied beyond colt starting. This can be applied to my performance horse. This can be applied to my everyday riding horse. If the horse is starting to give you, you know, indicators that he is not comfortable, then that's probably an indication to you that you need to slow down in the training process. Maybe he's not coping with the thing that you're training him at the moment. Maybe he's worried about certain things that are happening, and it gives you the ability to read that and address it and support him through it before it ends up some big catastrophic event or you end up in an accident or something like that. Preparing the horse is about us doing the work and then assessing whether or not he's ready for that next step. So we can be preparing the horse all the way through his training career, from starting the horse under saddle to preparing him for his first outing, to preparing him for his first competition, to preparing him to do high performance maneuvers. We need to think about how we're setting the horse up for success, how we're staying in tune with the horse and looking for those clues and reading the horse's body language to find out whether the horse is ready and able to go to the next step. So I hope that you enjoyed this, not impromptu, because obviously it's Wednesday night, so we're always doing Wednesday Night Live on Wednesday nights, but the topic was pretty impromptu. It just came to me as I walked in the door. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this for no reason Wednesday Night Live. There is always a reason that your horse is doing something, and there's always clues that he's going to do something as well. So drop me a line in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all over next week for Wednesday Night Live, or next Tuesday for Q&A Tuesday, or even tomorrow for Q&A Tuesday, because I haven't done Q&A Tuesday for yesterday yet. And of course, every day I'm uploading a new video for the Millie Diaries. So again, thanks so much for watching. If there's any topics you'd like to see me cover on Wednesday Night Live, please shoot them through and I will look forward to airing them for you. Thanks everyone.